Hey, Jackets fans, welcome to Boom and Gloom, where I discuss the boom, the good, and the gloom, the bad, of Columbus Blue Jackets hockey. I'm your host, Anthony, also known as Whaler Jacket on social media platforms, and speaking of which, I am slowly shifting away from Twitter. I hope to see some of you fellow fans on some other sites like Blue Sky or Threads. But I am still on Twitter, just like I said, slowly moving away from it. If you are tuning in for the first time, welcome. And I do have to give a shout out. I heard a new listener. So Ian, if you're listening right now, thank you so much. Appreciate it. And something I usually mention is that I am Ohio's longest suffering hockey fan. I was a Whaler fan growing up, Jackets fan now, and I don't think there is anyone in this state who could say that they have suffered from a hockey perspective as long as I have. I'm 48 years old, and combined, the Whalers and Blue Jackets have won 2 playoff series. 2. And I was 9 when the Whalers won their only series. So I don't even remember that. You know, I hadn't become the huge hockey fan that I am today. So, it didn't really resonate with me. So it's just crazy that I'm this old and have not had much to be proud of as an NHL fan. It's sad, but also crazy. So let's get into some Jackets talk. I intended to record an episode sooner than this, but I admit I got wrapped up in the presidential election, and that sucked up a lot of my free time. But the election is over now, and I hope I can now devote more of my attention to what is most important in life, and that's hockey. And I'm just kidding. It's not the most important thing in life, but it is still pretty awesome, right? So the title of today's episode is It No Longer Feels Different. As the Jackets started this season, fans, such as myself, they were seeing something different with our beloved team. I along with other people would say, something just feels different about this team. They didn't feel like the Blue Jackets of old. It seemed like a new coach and a new GM had changed the direction or the mentality or the culture, so to speak. Something just felt different. The Jackets scored 6 goals in each of their first 3 wins. And other than that game against Minnesota, they were in all of those losses, a different bounce here or there, and they win those games. They weren't getting blown out when they lost. Their power play, although not scoring a whole lot, it looked competent. It looked like an NHL power play. Their transitions looked great. They're smooth and fast. They looked aggressive on their forecheck, and they played with authority. They were playing a system. Something just felt different compared to years past. And then the Jets happened. They got stomped by the Winnipeg Jets. The excuses flew. Well, the Jets are the best team in the league. More on that later, by the way. This was expected. And then the next night, they got trounced by the Capitals. The Caps were up 5-0 in the first period. So game was over first period. Then they went out to San Jose, and they lost in overtime. The excuse was they threw a ton of shots, 50, I believe, and just couldn't score against the goalie who just seems to have their number. Wait, is that right? The goalie who just seems to have the Jackets number. Then they went and lost to the Kings. That was last night. I'm recording this on November 10th. Now, I haven't read the excuses about that one. But my point is, we're making excuses again. We're losing a lot. Again, 4 straight losses now. And watching the Kings game last night, I just didn't get that feeling that something feels different about this team. Instead I got the same old Jackets feeling. So what's going on here? Is it just a slump? All teams go through rough patches, right? All teams go through those types of patches during a season. Is this just that first patch for the Jackets? Or was the decent start they had, was that just an anomaly? And now we are seeing what this team truly is. For me, I see it as a combination of both. Sure, it's a bit of a slump. One, I hope they can snap with a win over Anaheim tonight, by the way, and then at least maybe get 1 point from the game against Seattle before they head back home. That would mean they took at least half the available points from this road trip. That would be decent. But I also think that the not so bad start that they've had, it has also been a product of energy from the new coach, the new system, and I hate to say it, but also some uplifting energy, or battle hardening from the Johnny Gaudreau tragedy. And I'm not saying they will no longer feel that, that battle hardened, that united front or uplifting energy from that, again, in the future as we move on. I just think it gave them more of a boost initially. Now, I always butcher his name. Mark Scheig. I always forget how to say it. Scheig. I don't remember, but I think it's Scheig. I think Mark Scheig put it perfectly. He said, the Jackets are not playing awful, but they are making game-changing mistakes. So now, we're going to see the real Blue Jackets. We're going to see what they are really made of. I think the next 2 games, starting tonight, will be extremely telling. If they lose one or both of those 2 games, I would say the road trip is a failure, and we are back to the same old Jackets. But if they can pull off a win or 2, they get some confidence back, they get some momentum, and they might turn things around a bit. But notice I just used the word, I just said a bit, okay? I still contend that the Jackets are not going to be fighting for a playoff spot this season. I've said it before, and I'll say it again. This season is not about winning. It is about healing and development. The nice start to the season admittedly got my hopes up. All right, it did. It got my hopes up a bit, but I really need I need to quell those high expectations and those high hopes. All right, I need to think straight about this. I need to see the season for what it really is. Before the Gaudreau tragedy, I thought that this season would just continue a rebuild. And then next season would be the season when we start challenging for the playoffs. Now that playoff hope, it may have to be delayed an additional season, due to the circumstances. So if you're like me, my advice is cheer for them as you always do, but temper your expectations. It's hard not to. I get that. I totally get that. Our expectations get high. We've been wanting a consistently winning team for so long. I get it. And Dean Evison has kind of a reputation for squeezing the absolute best from his players and accomplishing more with less. He did that in Minnesota. He could do that here. But even doing that, I still don't think this team qualifies for the playoffs, or even makes a strong push for that matter. And I'll be very happy if I'm wrong. And I will gladly admit that I'm wrong. But I just don't see it now. Something just doesn't feel different as it did before. It just doesn't feel different at the moment. It feels like the same old Jackets. And I hope that changes. I really do. But right now I'm getting the sense that the start of the season was just a burst of energy, and now they're going to settle back into being a, unfortunately, less than average team. I mean, goodness, what we've added this season, I don't think anybody can look at our team and see what we've added and say, oh yeah, we're a better team than last year. We're just not. We have a better coach, better system, but I think too many things have to fall into place for us to really make a playoff push this year. I want to dive into some other topics next. Some player analysis and just some notes and observations. Is there any player more hit or miss on a game-by-game basis on our roster right now than Damon Severson? Holy cow, that dude drives me nuts. One game he looks like a stud, and the next he looks like he deserves to be benched. One game, I forget which one it was, he had 6 takeaways. Or, I'm sorry, not takeaways, giveaways. He had 6 giveaways. And then, the game I attended against the Islanders, I thought he looked great. He had 1 goal taken back due to what I think was a bad call of a player in the crease. Goalie interference or whatever it was. And then he scored the only other goal with a goaltender between the pipes. Danforth scored that empty goal at the end, the empty net goal, but Severson was the only one to put 2 past the goalie. So it just drives me bonkers. I would really like to see more consistency out of him. And I think he needs to take a few less risks and concentrate on just playing the system. The opportunities for offense will come. But I think he just tries to make too much happen, and his split-second decisions have not been good. So I think we're looking at just, count on him to give the puck away at least a couple times every game. I think we have to just look at that. We have to expect that. And I don't want to. So I hope he finds more consistency and starts making some better decisions with the puck. Jake Christensen. Overall, I have to say that I am impressed. I am not impressed that he has been impressive, if that makes sense. I don't think he has been super impressive. I'm impressed that he has made what seems to be a home for himself in the top 4 and hasn't looked out of place. He's just been a steady, solid defenseman. For the most part, okay? He's had his moments, but which defenseman on our team hasn't? I would argue that Severson has had more brain farts than Christensen to this point in the season. Breaking news. Okay, breaking news. As I type my notes for this episode, the Blue Jackets have acquired Dante Fabro, I think that's how you say his name, off of waivers from the Nashville Predators. Okay. My knee-jerk reaction? Why? why do we just add another defenseman to the fold? We already have a pretty crowded blue line that we're trying to find playing time for Juracek and down the road, hopefully, Matejchuk. So I don't know what we're doing here. If we were pushing for the playoffs, then I'd say great, sign him. But I still don't think we are. So we're not gunning for the playoffs this year. So we shouldn't we just be playing the kids and giving them the ice time and experience? I mean, what are we trying to prove here? I don't know. I hope I'm wrong here, but this doesn't seem to be a move that needed to be made. Now, I don't know. Maybe Don Waddell has some trades in the works, and then I will totally admit I was wrong. But my knee-jerk here is that he didn't have to make this signing at this point in the season. So I guess we'll see what happens. But yeah, that's some breaking news. I didn't put much thought into that, so that's just my knee-jerk reaction. I'll have to kind of take a step back and actually think about it a little bit more. But my thought right now is why? Why did we do that? Okay, all right, so let's get back to my regular stuff here. Okay, next up, Adam Fantilli. I have a controversial take on Adam Fantilli. I'm going to say this, and it will probably make some people mad. But also, I want to say that I said some pretty negative things about Damon Severson when I went and saw the Jackets play the Islanders, and he put 2 goals in the net. He started playing better that game. So I'm going to say this controversial take about Adam Fantilli, and hopefully we'll see his play improve. What I want to say is I expect more from him. He has looked fine, but that's the thing. I want him to look better than fine. I want him to look better than an average NHL player. Because right now, that's what I think he's looked like. Just an average NHL player. And let's be real. He was touted as a number 1 overall pick. They said if it wasn't for Bedard, he and Carlson would have been neck and neck as consensus number 1 picks in that draft. So at the moment, though, he does not appear to be a number 1 overall pick to me. He doesn't appear to be a game-changing, dynamic forward. I know that will ruffle some feathers with some of you listeners, and I recognize he doesn't even have a full season under his belt yet. I get it, and I get that some players take more time than others to develop. I mean, look at Lafreniere with the Rangers. I just don't want to see Fantilli become another Nikolai Zherdev or Gilbert Brule. He has too much talent to become one of them. I don't want to see him become a Zherdev or a Brule or a Filatov. The Jackets have had just horrible success with drafting Alexander Picard. There's another one. Horrible success drafting first round forwards in the top 10. So, yeah, I would like to see more from Fantilli. And speaking of first round talent, forwards, how much is this team missing Kent Johnson right now? Playing at the level he was playing at, I think this team would have 2 more wins had he been in the lineup. And I know that's saying a lot. 2 more wins because of one player, but I truly believe that. And the good news, the great news, is that Don Waddell said it will not be another 2 months before he's playing again. Not 2 weeks either, but at least his injury wasn't a season-ending injury. My gut tells me he'll be back in mid-December, about a month from now, and that makes me very happy. Dmitry Voronkov, he's returned, and he even scored a goal last night against the Kings. This is also very good news. Once he gets up to speed, he had a lot of time off. So once he gets back to where he's supposed to be, that dude is a beast. 6'5" beast. He brings much needed size to the Jackets lineup, especially with the losses of Goodbranson and Jenner. And I kind of like him on a line with Olivier and Danforth, at least for now. Eventually I think we'll see some changes, especially when Johnson comes back. So I think his return will cause a complete reshuffling of the lineup. And our goaltenders, okay? I've said this before. The Jackets really need a goalie who can steal some games. And I am not convinced that Merzlikins or Tarasov can do this, can steal games at this point. And I will give Elvis credit. He had 2 games where he looked pretty darn good. The 1 goal performance he had, and I'm drawing a blank on who they were playing that night. He lost a shutout with 26 seconds to go. And then the following game was a shutout against the Islanders. But then there was the 6-goal drubbing against the Jets. And I know, it's the Jets. And I know it's, this is a team effort and the defense was not good that night. But that's why they call it stealing games. A goalie who can get his team a win when they may not deserve the win. And I'll admit, I did not watch the game against the Sharks, so I'm not sure how well he played in that one. But I assume it was fairly decent because he only gave up 1 goal. So Elvis has a respectable goals against average, I think. But if he really wants to impress me this year, he's got to start stealing a win here and there. Speaking of goaltenders, the Jackets have a habit, 2 actually, that I want to bring up here. Since as long as I can remember as a fan of this team, they have an uncanny knack for making other teams' backup goaltenders look like Vezina Trophy candidates. And I cannot figure it out. They had 50 shots against Vitek Vanacek, or I forget how you say his name correctly. Vanacek. 50 shots. And we're only able to put 1 past him. And that guy apparently is like 9-0 against the Jackets. And he's always been a backup from what I remember. So in the last 2 games, the Jackets have had 76 shots on goal. 76. And only 3 goals. That is just mind-bogglingly frustrating to me. 76 shots on goal against backup goaltenders because the Kings played their backup goalie last night as well, and they only score 3 total goals? And a lot of these teams the Jackets are facing, they played the previous night as part of a back-to-back. And the Jackets still can't find the back of the net. Very frustrating. And the other thing, the other knack they have, they always seem to find a way to let former players score against them. Players who don't even score very much. Alexander Wenberg scored the overtime game winner against San Jose. That dude never scores. He had 30-plus games with the Rangers last season, and he scored 1 goal. And I believe it was in the playoffs. So he never scored since the Rangers acquired him in the regular season. And then last night against the Kings, who scores? Gavrikov, of course. Because of course. What does he score? 5-6 goals a season? But you can bet on him scoring against the Jackets. It is just so uncanny to me. And the last thing I want to talk about today, something that is not Blue Jackets related. Well, In some way, it's related. Why in the heck are the Winnipeg Jets so good? In case you missed it, they have started the season 14-1. One loss in their first 15 games. That is amazing. It is incredible. It is record-setting. No team in NHL history has had a better start than the Winnipeg Jets this season. Is there a single person alive who predicted before the season started that the Winnipeg Jets would not only be the best team in the NHL at this point, but get off to a record-setting good start? My guess is you will not find a single person. But you know what? I have to be petty here, okay? I admit this is very petty because I would love to see the Jets succeed. If the Stanley Cup is going to go back to Canada, I'd love to see the Jets as the ones who are able to hoist it. But I have something petty. What bothers me about the Jets' fast start is the fact that their coach is Scott Arniel. The guy that was an utter failure as a head coach of the Blue Jackets. He was generally all around unliked by fans and I think by the players. He didn't even last 2 seasons with the Blue Jackets because he sucked so bad as head coach. And what happens? He goes to Winnipeg, and this roster falls into his lap, and now he is the head coach of a record-setting team. And that is truly what I think happened, by the way. An amazing roster just fell into his lap. It's not just the coaching. He is not doing something utterly remarkable as a head coach to get his team to a record-setting start. No. You know who helped? You know who helped in a roundabout way? The Blue Jackets. Yeah. They traded Pierre-Luc Dubois to the Jets for Patrick Laine, and that triggered a chain reaction. Dubois was actually traded to the Kings for, get this, a king's ransom. The players they received in return, they're really starting to pan out. And I believe that is what has truly made the difference for that team. They have really developed some really good chemistry together. It has just worked out. And I think it has worked out in spite of, not because of, Scott Arniel. Not to say he isn't doing a good job. Okay, he's doing a good job. He really is, and I'm sure he has learned a lot. He was assistant coach of the Rangers for a while, and I forget where he was elsewhere, but I'm sure he has gained more experience and insight, and he's a better coach than he was when he was with the Jackets. So I'm sure the coaching plays a part of it. It just sucks that he couldn't be that winning coach when we wanted him to be with the Blue Jackets. Instead, he is with the team he has always wanted to coach in a place that loves him from his days as a player, and he's tearing up the league right now. So I guess no one will be piling on now, eh, Scott? So that's all I got for today, people. Enjoy the game tonight against the Ducks. I'm looking forward to it, and I'm hoping that it will begin a bit of a turnaround for the Jackets. And actually, one more dumb thing to throw out there. I really, really wish the Ducks, and the Sharks, for that matter, would switch to black pants. They have sweet jerseys. Love them. But the overall look with those pants, yuck. Questions, comments, suggestions, send them my way. You can find me on Instagram at WhalerJacket. And as I said, I'm slowly migrating away from Twitter, but I'm still there, and you can contact me there. But you can also find me at Blue Sky and Threads at WhalerJacket. Would love to hear from you. I'll talk at you again next time on Boom and Glued. Thanks for listening.